I gotta get up and close for y'all to hear me. It is difficult to find your voice, but it's even more difficult living without it. Saadiq ranks creative and corporate. Let's find your voice. In this video, we talk about voice. We're talking about finding your voice, giving you strategies in which I'm giving you 3 strategies in which you could try to start building those blocks on finding your voice. What are going to be the benefits? And I'm going to sprinkle in a little bit of my experiences because I've spoken on a panel for TikTok, did a TED talk, multiple pitches on Wall Street. I've done multiple presentations for my program, NYU. I've done financial literacy presentations. I've done it all, and I do this for the last 3 years. So I've obviously found my own voice, and it's still developing and still kind of like having its own benefits and fruits of its own labor. But I want y'all to find your voice. If you're a young man, if you're a young person, an elderly person, anybody, but specifically young people as well. Like, I think communication is a pillar for masculinity. I think mastering that is something that a lot of men kind of like lack and don't have. And I think the younger you could do it and the quicker you could do it, the more power you have as an individual and the more emotional intelligence you have as an individual. Now, why am I telling y'all this? Finding your voice is finding yourself. It's finding your self-advocacy. It's finding that inner feeling that's telling you to speak up. And sometimes that might look like, that might look like in a conversation with your family. That might look like in a conversation at school. That might look like in a conversation just in the workplace. There's many instances in which you're going to need to use your voice. And a lot of times, sometimes it comes off with anger. Sometimes it comes off with like this types of vitriol or this like aggressiveness. And I want us to find a way to have a voice, but engage in a way that's very respectful, but at the same time, it's very calm and collected, and you're able to get your point across without feeling flustered. And that takes a lot of practice. And I want to give y'all 3 strategies in which you could implement this type of practice. So you're finding your voice and it comes a little bit more smooth. And now you're picking and choosing when you want to use it. 3 strategies. The first one is saying no. I'm not telling you to start saying no to everybody. Obviously you got to do your responsibilities, but starting to say no, especially as like a people pleaser or somebody that typically is going to say yes or overexert themselves, saying no is starting to have some type of like autonomy and like, yo, I'm not going to be able to do this for you because I have to prioritize myself. I'm not going to be able to do this because I'm prioritizing something else. I'll give you an example. When I'm back at home, right, my dad always wants to do things with me, right? And of course, I want to do things with my family as well, but sometimes, so I ask for my help, like in the studio or at the shop or something like that, and I have to say no. Like I have a schedule, I have things I need to do, I gotta get these weekly uploads out, I gotta do all the different things, and when he sees me as a kid, and that's okay because I'm his kid, but he sees me as a kid, he sees me as like, yo, I just want him to tag along and help me do something. I into this kid, why won't he pour so much back into me? And it's a balance between that, because ultimately I want to help, but I also have to prioritize a lot of stuff that I said I was going to do. I'm a man of my word, so if I say I'm going to start doing weekly uploads, then I have to prioritize that above a lot of things. Same thing when it comes to school, same things when it comes to like seeing my friends. So a lot of those instances, you're starting to take a little bit back of that autonomy. And you're going to feel it when a lot of people is going to react a little bit negatively. I got to deal with what my dad's going to say after the fact, or how he might act, or, how he might feel. But ultimately, it's me taking back a little bit of my autonomy and voicing that, hey, I have other things to do, and I have markers for myself to hit. And this saying no is voicing up for those markers. Second strategy, simple. Start talking when other people are not talking. There's a couple of topics that people never want to talk about, right? You have politics, and this is within politics, but you got like politics, Israel and Palestine, and like religion, right? Like, I'm always the person that when there is a podcast going, I'm going to stop. I'm going to start talking to that podcast, right? Like, if somebody asks a question, I'm going to try to answer it. That's just me and my media stuff. But you're training yourself a little bit to talk about the uncomfortable, be with the uncomfortable. It's crazy that it spans into even some of the most like academic seminar like type of classes, or like even in like workplace or at home, people are scared to talk about politics. My sister, my family never wants to talk about politics, other than it's like me, my dad, or like my uncle or something, or my mom. My mom be talking about politics facts. These spaces are which a lot of just uncomfort lies. and sometimes people can hear you the most when everybody else is not talking. So everybody's gonna have a conversation about Kendrick Lamar's hip hop performance and all these different things and the Drake beef because everybody feels like they're expert about it. But when you start engaging in conversations with politics, there's a little bit of backing behind what you have to say. You don't even necessarily have to have points, but you could have questions. And those questions are prompting somebody else to start talking, somebody else to start discussing. But ultimately, at least you're engaging with the topic in which you wasn't going to beforehand. Sometimes the biggest places where I shine is when I'm in class and everybody goes mute when it comes to politics, and I'm over here talking my butt off, not only because I know a little bit, but also, I'm not going to let these topics go untalked about because some of them are important. Talk politics, talk relationships, lead with curiosity, lead with love, lead with empathy, trying to understand people, and then leave with trying to adjust. Not everything is about a 1 point and 1 point, an argument going back and forth. Sometimes it's literally just, that's interesting. I'm gonna think about that. And that's also there's power in that. So learning how to find your voice, but also learning how to, like have that interplay of conversation. Not everything is just about you talking. Finding your voice is not just about you talking. The third, have some foundation below it. Nothing that you talk about, people are going to believe if they don't see it in your eyes. And then they typically don't see it in your eyes if you're not doing anything. You gotta do something to back it up. The talk gotta have some work as you're going up the ladder. Now, some people are great talkers, so they could persuade you, they could say whatever. I'm not saying that people are below that. I'm saying that what I experience, you play the long game, you do the work, and you also talk about you as you're doing the work. So while you're doing it, you're getting this type of confidence because you're not BSing. I'm not BSing y'all because I wouldn't have gotten all these different experiences, if I was BSing when I'm talking. So when I'm at the TikTok panel and I'm talking about, my content and how does content work and stuff like that, then okay, and talk about human connection. How does human connection work? Well, I've been, you know, I've been doing this for a while. So a lot of that just comes out and exudes, and people can read it on your face. So don't try to BS people. The third strategy is having some work to lay that in foundation. So when you speak, people are confident in what you're saying. People understand it, people hear you, and people believe you. Simple shit. Okay. Benefits. You get respect, man. You get respect from your peers, family, employers, sponsors, mentors. Anybody that could be around you. You finding your voice, being able to advocate for yourself, saying what you want, saying what you don't want, saying where you might see yourself in the future, seeing where you don't want to be in the future is going to get you a lot of respect from the people around you. Why? Is because you're being upfront with your feelings. You're being upfront with your emotions. People don't have to guess. You are becoming more and more of an adult, the more that you're able to speak up for what you stand for, what you believe in, but also what pertains to you. If everybody's making a decision for you, if everybody's, just putting you to the second shelf, then you're going to be regulated there. It's going to, it's the same thing with I think about people like adulting or young adults, and when do you finally start getting that type of autonomy? And it's not given, it's taken. When I was younger and I'm coming into college, I started separating a lot of my bank statements, my financial stuff from my parents. These are ways in which I'm taking responsibility, in which ways I'm taking this type of autonomy, and I'm voicing that to my family. I don't need to lie anymore. I don't lie to my family about nothing, the stuff that I do. If they ask me, then shoot, then I have to answer. But that's because I'm becoming more of an adult, and I have to stand on whatever I do. And if you feel guilt about something, you can speak to the guilt you feel. But that's the voice that I'm talking about, in which you are starting to take responsibility for your own actions. Listen, all I want is for you to showcase a strong sense of self. You move through interviews a little bit more confidently. You move when you're meeting people a little bit more confident, and you're able to speak a little bit to what you can do. But the more that you talk, the more that you voice yourself, the more that you self-advocate, the more that people are going to take you a little bit more serious. And as I've been growing up, first of all, there's multiple Of course, there's nuance behind how this is going to be implemented for you. Being a voice has always been kind of my charm, and it has always been my avenue in which I could get taken serious. So when I speak, the room hears, and I'm able to start commanding a room a little bit more differently. And that's what I want for y'all, because you develop this strong sense of self, develop this strong sense of voice. Then in any room you go into, whether or not if it's a corporate space, whether or not it's a family room, whether or not it's a class, whether or not it's just you with your guys, like a lot of this, ties back to integrity and being able to respectfully voice your opinion, and continue some type of conversation and discussion, because it's going to be ultimately very important. Sometimes you might have a really horrible conversation with your employer or your mentor or your sponsor, whatever, and you're going to have to find a way to communicate effectively in a respectful way, but also being able to speak to a little bit of the problems that y'all might be dealing with. For example, I had this roommate, and I had two roommates, and one of them was not dirty, because they were both weren't dirty. They were just messy. And I had a problem with how it was not being divvied up in terms of like work and, cleaning up, and the bathroom used to smell OD. And it was just problems overall. And how I was solving it was like I sent this huge text to one of the roommates. I mean, to both of them, and I said we need to talk about this. And one of the roommates read it as like a threat, right? And sometimes, even with like black people in general, you get placed into this box in which sometimes you're not even trying to be aggressive, and people put you into this aggressive space because they don't know how to engage with conflict. And if they don't know how to engage with conflict, then automatically they're going to think like you are threatening or you're being aggressive on something, when I'm just being assertive and saying this uncomfort is not something I'm willing to live with. And in that conversation, I started learning how beforehand I used to just get very frustrated. I just used to do like petty stuff to get my point across. But this one was much more of a real discussion. And even when, like, let's say someone's trying to gas something like that, or trying to misconstrue what you're feeling or misconstrue the situation, you're able to calmly and collectively dissect whatever opinions or whatever conversations to make this a productive argument or make this a productive conversation. And that was a big thing for me in Ghana. But that was like, all right, I started realizing that these were different metrics I'm hitting. Then I'm realizing, yo, this voice is taking me in many different directions, and not just a professional success, but also like within my interpersonal relationships and personal success. Now I'm like, dang, I can really handle conflict in a way better manner than I used to. And that's what finding your voice is, man. Saadiq Ranks, Creative and Corporate. I'll see y'all next week, but what else? What else? What else? Oh, it's mad cold. So you're going to see me much more in my room. I'm trying to find different ways to make it more, engaging with this B-roll and everything like that. So I'm trying to make it more engaging, but I can't be outside because it's literally 20 degrees and it's mad windy and it's terrible. So I can't even think when I'm outside, and let alone try to record. So I hope you're enjoying these videos. Leave a comment, if you have any questions and or want to submit some type of things you want me to talk about. Put it in the comments, like, subscribe, do what y'all need to do. Hit the post notifications bell so you're going to see me next week. Love, and I'll see ya.